Chapter 1855 Group Battle. Zhang Yi, Lu Karen, and Yang Xinxin waited for a while, and then more people appeared in the White Room. Just as he wished, Liang Yu appeared in the room. Zhang Yi and the other two looked at each other, then breathed a sigh of relief. Now, we have 4 people here who have advanced to the next round. This is good news. Based on the proportion of people entering this area, the people we brought in became stepping stones for most people. Haha, it's quite interesting. But what kind of test will be waiting for us next? Zhang Yi said with a smile. Liang Yu came over and told her story. The reason why she waited until now to show up was mainly because the first opponent she faced was too good at hiding. That person is one of us. Liang Yu glanced at Zhang Yi and said speechlessly, "Members of the Fuying Force, you're die-hard fans. I chased him in a jungle, like 2 primitive men, and it took a full month to end the battle." Zhang Yi touched his nose and couldn't help but sigh. You know what, it's a bit of my style. Don't give up, don't abandon. Maybe if you drag it out to the end, you will win. A few people were chatting, tacitly keeping a sufficient distance from other strangers. However, when the 4 of them get together, they tend to attract a lot of attention. Yang Xinxin said, "Next, if we still want to compete with each other, I have a suggestion." Several people looked at Yang Xinxin. Yang Xinxin said, "The 4 of us are ranked according to priority. The first is my brother, the second is me, the third is Karen, and the 4th is Teacher Liang. This ranking is based on my observation of this great god-level civilization administrator. Everyone is so close that there is no need for any polite words." Yang Xinxin directly explains the reasons for the priority ranking. Everyone pricked up their ears and listened attentively. In the eyes of the great god-level civilization, combatability is not the highest priority screening criterion. This can be seen from the fact that after entering the Light Gate, the administrator brought everyone's strength to the same level. So, Mr. Liang, who is a pure fighter, ranks 4th. The levels ahead will test your thinking about life, your luck, and your coping skills in case of encounters. So, I think the next trial will be more complicated and difficult than the previous ones. It may even force us into a dilemma. Then, among the remaining 3, my brain is the most important. So I will rank Koran 3rd, me 2nd, and my brother 1st. Do you have any opinions? Liang Yu nodded and said seriously, "It is a reasonable arrangement. I have no objection." Lu Karen also smiled and said, "We are a whole. Besides, my brother has always been our pillar of support." Zhang Yi touched his nose, looked at Yang Xinxin, and said, "I don't consider myself the highest priority. Any of the 4 of us can do it if we can pass this test. As long as we can keep that important reward in our team, we can guarantee everyone's safety." Zhang Yi said this, sighed, and said in a joking tone, "In fact, sometimes I also want to find a powerful boss to hang out with. If you inherit the great god-level civilization, you will become a very powerful person in an instant. Then I can lie down and have a good rest." It seems like a joke, but there is some seriousness in it. Yang Xinxin smiled, but her eyes were serious. "Brother, you are the soul of our team. What Xinxin wants to see most is that you can become stronger and stronger." Zhang Yi smiled faintly. "We'll have to wait and see what test awaits us next." The number of people on the field ultimately did not reach 20. The familiar voice sounded again, and the figure of the girl in red appeared in the white space. Along with her, there were several other figures. Ling, the cross-masked knight, stands behind the girl in red. On the other side, there were also 2 knights covered in silver-gray armor. Their armor looked different from that of the cross-masked knights. One of their heads looked like it was wearing a crown of thorns, while the helmet on the other looked like the head of a rabid dog. "Are there still so many people left?" The voice of the Crusader sounded slowly. "Them?" There was a strong sense of contempt in the Mad Dog Knight's voice. "The weak race, none of them are decent. Can they really bear that burden? That's not important anymore." The Thorn Knight's voice carried a sense of distant vicissitudes, as if speaking made him feel like a waste of energy. "We have waited for so long, but have never found the answer we want. We can only immerse ourselves in endless despair and loneliness. Now that I have chosen to abandon everything and let my existence return to the dust of history, then I should stop thinking about this world. At this moment, Ling's voice rang out. It was a voice Zhang Yi had never heard before, as cold as the flying snow in winter. If you don't try, how do you know it's impossible? Even if we leave, we have to leave something interesting behind. Whatever. The cross-masked knight said calmly. Their conversation had no intention of hiding from outsiders, and the voices were not transmitted through sound, but in the form of radio waves, directly into everyone's brain. Zhang Yi and the others were confused and had no idea what they were talking about. However, some people who were participating in the trial on site also looked thoughtful. Ichigo, the king of the Song era, folded his wings devoutly and bowed to the four knights. I, Ichigo, the survivor of the Song kingdom, am willing to use everything in my life to inherit your will. The four knights in the conversation did not respond, as if they did not hear anyone talking at all. The voice of tiny existence is too small, like the sound of an insect. There is no need to pay attention to it. The manager ignored the conversation among the knights and looked calmly at the people who had been selected through numerous screenings. Next, there are 4 trial levels. There are now 16 people left on the field. You'll be divided into 3 groups and compete in the form of teams. The rules of the trial are as follows. Each group will have 5 to 6 people, and you will each guard a city. Before he finished speaking, the administrator projected a huge ancient city in 3 dimensions in the space. The city appears to be only about 10 kilometers in radius, and the city walls are simply built with huge stones. There is only a huge statue standing in the center of the city. Apart from that, there is nothing else in the city. What you have to do is to protect the statue in your city and try to destroy the statues in the other 2 cities. If the statues are destroyed, it means that all the aliens in the city will be eliminated. In addition, she raised her hand, and a large number of soldiers appeared in front of the city. They were wearing armor and holding various weapons. Each city has 5,000 soldiers at your disposal. The strength of these soldiers is controlled at a ratio of 1 to 1,000 compared to the aliens. Yang Xinxin and Zhang Yi thought at the same time. So, this is not just a simple showdown of force. We need to consider how to maximize the value of these soldiers. The manager said, the time limit is 7 days. After 7 days, if more than 2 city statues remain, everyone will be eliminated. Yang Xinxin and Zhang Yi thought to themselves, that is to say, even if we just defend the city, it won't work. We must actively engage in battles with other cities. Yang Xinxin already had a rough idea of what the manager wanted to test her at this stage. The previous levels all tested one's personal qualities. At this stage, there are too many factors to weigh. Teamwork ability and combat leadership ability. Thinking of this, Yang Xinxin opened her mouth and asked coldly, how is the team formed? Is it randomly assigned? The manager looked at Yang Xinxin and said calmly, no, you can choose who your partners are. You have half an hour to decide on your team. The team must be built with 5 to 6 people. After hearing this explanation, Zhang Yi's eyes suddenly lit up, because right now he has 4 of his own people. In other words, he only needs to win over 1 or 2 more people to form a group. Then, for his team, the initiative will be in his hands no matter what. But other people's thoughts became more complicated. Looking at Zhang Yi's team, which already had 4 members, they knew that it was impossible for these people to be separated. Even if Zhang Yi asked others to join other teams would not accept them, because there is a possibility that these people are undercover. After the manager finished explaining all the rules, he said, now let's get started. Zhang Yi immediately pulled a few people over, and the 4 of them formed a circle and had a private conversation through the chat channel of the intelligence system. Zhang Yi was the first to speak. This test is a team battle, which is very advantageous for us. The question now is who should we choose as our teammates? Yang Xinxin said, brother, I'm afraid there won't be many people willing to partner with us. Zhang Yi looked at Yang Xinxin, waiting for her to analyze the current situation. Zhang Yi had made up his mind. Since this was a group battle involving 3 teams, force alone could not solve all the problems. That would require reliance on strategy, so at this stage, he would hand over the power to control the battlefield to Yang Xinxin. Let professionals do professional things and make good use of people. This is what a team leader should do most. Yang Xinxin explained, there are some unspecified points in the administrator's rules. For example, can people in the same team fight each other? Can people in a team betray their own team and help other teams? She narrowed her eyes, and her 24-core brain worked rapidly, analyzing the complex situation like playing chess. According to my understanding of the manager, she will not have any constraints outside of the rules. So these behaviors are allowed. Lu Karen understood what Yang Xinxin meant. You mean, instead of having us all stay on one team, why don't we go undercover on other teams? Yang Xinxin glanced at her and said, you understand a little bit of what I mean, but not much. If you can think of this kind of thing, then the other team members can naturally think of it too. The key point I'm making is that anyone who joins our team is taking a huge risk. Because even if we are teammates in this group battle, we will still be competing with each other in the next level. So if you join our team, you might get killed by us after we win. Zhang Yi touched his nose. Possible? After listening to Yang Xinxin's statement, he almost subconsciously thought of this approach. Moreover, he would show no mercy. Even if he killed the other party here, he could still be resurrected in the outside world. Everyone is here for the treasures of the god-level civilization, so there is no need to show mercy, and all potential competitors will be eliminated as soon as there is a chance. This is going to be a bit troublesome. Liang Yu also frowned. She had noticed that those strange people were looking around and were wary of each other, especially when they looked at the four of them. Their eyes were full of fear. I'm afraid no one is willing to team up with them. But there is no need to worry about this problem. The administrator wants to prevent this kind of phenomenon, so someone must team up with us before we can enter the next level. She paused and said thoughtfully, perhaps this is also part of the test. Whether you can choose the right partner to go with you all the way, the ability to judge people is very important. And working with dangerous teammates is also an important criterion for testing a person. Zhang Yi nodded. Being able to work with someone you like is not a big deal, but working with someone you obviously hate, or even want to kill, putting aside your prejudices and working hard to achieve the same goal, this is the most difficult thing. But there are downsides to this. Yang Xinxin said, since no one is willing to join our group, the last person to come here can only be the one left by everyone. Zhang Yi frowned. According to your analysis, our team can only have 5 people at most. Because if there is any choice, they will not join our team. And the person we get in the end, we have to have him, but he must be considered the weakest among these people. This will greatly weaken the strength of their team. This is the critical moment that the manager wants to test us. Yang Xinxin said lightly. Zhang Yi followed Yang Xinxin's gaze and looked at the manager who was waiting for them indifferently in the distance, and the 4 knights who were standing high above him. The ability to build a team, which includes recruiting talent. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi once again looked around at all the contestants on the scene. His top choices are obviously Night King, King Arthur, Michael Olib, God King Odin, Winter Goddess Morana, and others, because they all possess the powerful strength of a bishop and are all talented commanders. In such a war, their capabilities are outstanding. However, these people are unlikely to join Zhang Yi's team and are subject to Zhang Yi's drive. Besides, they also understood that Zhang Yi would do something like that and then kill them afterwards. As a second choice, Zhang Yi looked at Thunder God Purin again and shook his head. Although Alexei was his old friend, at this time, he would obviously stand firmly by Morana's side. After all, nothing is more important than national justice. After thinking for a long time, Zhang Yi's eyes fell on the White Labrador. Supernova, Brian, an unreliable bishop-level inhuman who controls gravity. At this moment, Brian stood there blankly, obviously confused by the current situation. Most people were hesitant, and except for those who originally belonged to the same faction, no one was in a hurry to choose an ally. Because allies are also potential competitors. It is not impossible to be backstabbed during combat. After thinking for a moment, Zhang Yi said directly to Yang Xinxin, Xinxin, this trial level is under your full control. I will not interfere with anything you do. How to choose teammates and the subsequent tactical execution are all up to you. It took Zhang Yi less than 5 seconds from making the decision to saying it out loud. Because at this moment, Zhang Yi deeply realized the difference in decision-making between himself and Yang Xinxin when facing such complicated problems. If you are not that type of person, don't pretend to know a lot. What Zhang Yi said was also agreed by Lu Karen and Liang Yu. Yang Xinxin's IQ is recognized as extremely high in the shelter. Yang Xinxin was not polite at all. She looked at Zhang Yi and confirmed one thing again. Brother, you said that you would support me unconditionally no matter what I do. Are you sure? There was an unusual glow in Yang Xinxin's eyes, which made Zhang Yi feel a little strange. But he nodded without thinking and said, That's right. Even if I have to sacrifice myself, I won't say no. Although he knew that Yang Xinxin would not do such a thing given her personality, his words were not false. He truly felt from the bottom of his heart that for a genius like Yang Xinxin, it would not be a problem to let her obtain the treasure of the god-level civilization in the end. After all, Yang Xinxin's things are his. Zhang Yi is not good at calculating in small details, but he is never confused about big things. Xinxin understands. Yang Xinxin smiled brightly, expressing her trust in Zhang Yi. So she leaned close to Zhang Yi's ear and said, Then go and win Brian over. Zhang Yi said, Xinxin, I can do this. But I am a little curious. Why did you choose it? Lu Karen and Liang Yu had the same expression. Brian usually gives people the impression of being careless and not serious at all. Choosing him as a teammate would make people feel uneasy. Yang Xinxin explained, because among these people, dogs and other creatures, only he has the smallest ambition. King Arthur, Morana, and others will not give up the fight for the final treasure easily. But as for Brian, we can try to talk to him about other benefits. And his abilities are at a disadvantage when he is fighting against his brother. We can control him more easily. When choosing teammates, you don't necessarily have to choose the strongest one, but you should choose the one who can best integrate into the team. Brian is the best choice right now. Zhang Yi nodded and walked over to find Brian. Brian was like a human being at this moment, with his chin supported by one hand, looking around with a scrutinizing look, as if he was also struggling with who to choose as a teammate. But obviously, it is not the first choice for most people. If they are too strong, you worry that you can't control them. If they are too weak, you worry that they will be a drag. In short, it is really difficult to choose 4 or 5 people to form a team from these people you don't know. Zhang Yi walked up to it and extended his hand to invite it. Hey Brian, are you alone? Brian frowned and asked, I'm not a person, am I a dog? Zhang Yi nodded. Right. Brian laughed awkwardly, shrugged his shoulders and said, Hi man. I'm not in the mood to joke with you right now. You know, I'm at an important fork in my life right now. I have to carefully examine everyone and then choose who to let be my teammates. Zhang Yi said, Don't bother with that. You and I hit it off right away. Why don't you join my team? Looking at the friendly smile on Zhang Yi's face, Brian was full of doubt. But I've heard a lot of stories about you. To be honest, brother, your reputation is not very good. And you guys are a team. If I join in, will it be a little hee-hee? It expressed the concerns in its heart. We are all 1,000-year-old foxes. There is no need to talk about strange stories from a Chinese studio here. Zhang Yi said directly and frankly, Let me be frank. I need someone to come over to make up the numbers for me. But I don't know the others well, so after thinking about it, it's a good idea to have you join us. As long as you join my team, you will definitely get some benefits. Besides, as a dog, are you really that interested in the things left behind by a god-level civilization? Brian's eyes wandered a little, and he sighed and said, Actually, I'm not that interested. It's mainly because my master, Professor Da Vinci, is very interested in the trial of this great god-level civilization. Damn it, up to now, we still don't know what this trial is for. As for my interest, I'm actually not that great. God knows what I'll get in the end. Zhang Yi patted its shoulder and persuaded it with a smile. So, now our team has 4 people. Even from the perspective of probability, our chances of getting the treasure are the highest. Then, as long as you join us, and do your best to help us win the final victory, I will definitely not treat you unfairly. Well, haven't you always been a single dog? Well, I promise to help you find some smart and beautiful little bitches in the future. After the end of the world, You must be lonely as a dog, right? Brian's ears suddenly perked up. Hey, what are you talking about? I'm not such a vulgar person. I'm an extraordinary dog with lofty ideals and intelligence. It stretched out its claws and shook hands with Zhang Yi vigorously. I joined your team only because I think you are a trustworthy person